Welcome back to another explainer. So, picture this. You're sitting at your desk, staring down this massive, super important project, and suddenly, you feel this absolute, overwhelming urge to organize your email inbox. Or, maybe you decide that right this very second is the absolute perfect time to sweep the kitchen floor. It's a deeply relatable, all-too-human habit, right? We're constantly choosing these easy, minor tasks over the big, heavy hitters that actually demand our attention. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating essay and an accompanying song titled The Price of Self-Flattery, Telling Yourself the Truth. We're going to unpack the hidden psychology behind exactly why we avoid our true duties, and honestly, more importantly, how we totally deceive ourselves into thinking we're doing the right thing. It's a super compelling look in our own minds, so let's just get right into it.
Section 1. The Small Task Trap.
The source material for today's explainer features this incredibly evocative song called Flattering Myself. And the lyrical framing, it just perfectly captures the human condition. It goes, "The road I must take waits ahead, yet down a side road I still stray." I mean, that brilliantly illustrates that exact nagging feeling of wandering away from our main responsibilities. The main road is right there, literally staring us in the face, and yet we actively choose to take the scenic detour.
And while we're on that little detour, we usually have this whole playlist of excuses running on a loop in our heads, right? Things like, well, now is not the right time, or I'll just begin a little later. Let me finish this one small task first. Or, my personal favorite, I have already worked enough today. Sound familiar? Well, the author of the essay points out something brilliant here. None of these statements are necessarily false. You really might have worked a lot today. And yeah, knocking out a small task could actually be helpful. But when these perfectly reasonable statements become a cover-up for constantly postponing something important, that's when they transform. They aren't just passing thoughts anymore. They're little compliments, little bribes we offer ourselves to excuse our avoidance.
So here is the psychological plot twist. What we're actually doing here isn't just your garden variety procrastination. It is literally a form of self-flattery. And that's defined as praising an unimportant occupation as an excuse to avoid something important. Think about it. A flatterer doesn't tell you the hard truth, right? A flatterer tells you exactly what you want to hear. And in these moments of avoidance, we basically become our own worst flatterers. We just whisper these sweet little reassurances to ourselves to completely justify our poor choices.
Section 2. The double-layered bribe.
So there's this internal transaction happening between two competing sides of ourselves. On the left side, we've got the lower self. Now, this part of us is constantly on the hunt for temporary comfort, effortless distraction, just, a pleasant way to pass the time or get a brief break from responsibility. Then, over on the right side, we have the true duty. That's the actual heavy lifting task that's just sitting there waiting for us. The crazy irony of this whole situation, this internal bribe we pull, is that the person giving the bribe and the person accepting it are the exact same person. It's us. We are literally negotiating with ourselves to avoid the right side by indulging the left.
The song lyrics really nail this transaction beautifully. The easy path tastes sweet to me, the harder one waits at my door. My lower self offers comfort freely, I am the taker and giver once more. This just perfectly emphasizes how our lower self freely hands over this sweet, easy path right at the exact moment a grueling task is sitting squarely on our doorstep. We're playing both the hero and the villain in our own internal drama.
And this builds perfectly into what the essay calls the double-layered bribe metaphor, which goes down in two distinct steps. Step 1, we make a concession to our lower self, like we decide to sweep the floor instead of writing that massive proposal. Step 2, this is where the flattery really kicks into high gear. Our inner flatterer steps right up and praises that concession as a highly sensible, super productive choice. We tell ourselves something like, well, a clean workspace is absolutely essential for a clear mind. We don't just make a poor choice, we decorate it. We dress it all up to look totally reasonable and responsible.
Moving on to Section 3. Silencing the conscience.
Now, the real hidden danger of this self-flattery is that it softens the voice of your own conscience. Just think about it for a second. Before we ever deceive a boss or a partner or a friend about why something didn't get done, we have already successfully deceived ourselves. By constantly decorating our poor choices with this fake praise, we are actively turning down the volume on our own internal moral compass.
As the song puts it, my tongue makes little duties great while greater ones remain unseen. We artificially inflate the value of all our tiny tasks. We convince ourselves that, wow, responding to those 3 minor emails was an absolute monumental achievement, all while the massive project we completely ignored continues to just gather dust in the corner.
And deep down, while all our little excuses rise up and give us a standing ovation, our conscience actually grows deeply troubled. Which brings us to the recurring chorus of the song. And honestly, it's a question I want to pose directly to you. What pleases me? Or what must be done? Which one of those is actually guiding your day? Are you just chasing the brief relief of the lower self? Or are you actually stepping up to the true duty? It is the absolute core conflict that every single one of us faces every single day.
Section 4, Justice, not harshness.
Now, the great thing about this essay is that it doesn't just diagnose the problem and leave us hanging, it offers this really empowering narrative shift. The answer to self-flattery isn't to suddenly turn into a tyrant against yourself. Let's look at the two approaches here. On the left, we have harshness. This is that moment when you realize you've been procrastinating, so you just punish yourself. You deny yourself any rest, and you just try to grind through it purely out of guilt. The essay argues this is completely the wrong approach. On the right side, though, we have justice. A just and fair approach gives rest its rightful due, it gives work its rightful due, and most importantly, it gives priority its rightful due. It's all about honoring both our material and our spiritual duties at the right time and in the right place.
So what does a just life actually look like in the real world? Well, it means recognizing that life is a package deal. Great and small duties have to proceed side by side. You don't have to completely abandon unimportant tasks. I mean, the kitchen floor obviously still needs sweeping eventually, right? But the key takeaway is that smaller tasks shouldn't be placed ahead of your greater responsibilities. Rest is absolutely necessary, but it shouldn't just become a convenient excuse for continual postponement. And innocent hobbies? They're great, as long as they aren't being used as a shield to just avoid true duty.
Finally, Section 5, Telling Yourself the Truth. The lyrics in the song map out this solution so perfectly. Let me be just, not harsh, with myself, give every task its rightful place. Not toward the flatterer's honeyed words, but toward the truthful voice I'll pace. It is a very deliberate, conscious pivot away from those honeyed words that excuse our avoidance, and it's a brave step toward listening to a truly honest inner voice.
And here is the absolute core takeaway of this entire explainer. The ultimate antidote to self-flattery is this. Tell yourself what is true about you, not merely what pleases you. Escaping the small task trap requires radical, unfiltered honesty. It means catching yourself in that exact moment when you're about to go organize that inbox and saying, no, I'm doing this right now because I'm afraid of the big project. I am avoiding it. That raw honesty literally strips the flatterer of all their power. Just being occupied with something unimportant isn't self-flattery on its own. It only becomes self-flattery when we praise that minor occupation as a way to avoid the truly important work.
I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought from the song's chorus. Does a person begin to flatter themselves when from the truth they turn and run? Think about that. The next time you find yourself reaching for an easy distraction, ask yourself, what truth are you running from? Catch that inner flatterer red-handed, acknowledge your true duty, and take the harder, but ultimately way more fulfilling path. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, good luck tackling those big tasks you've got waiting ahead.